Introducing Leslie Glustrom, an activist and scientist here in Boulder. She's renowned for her work with the PUC. She is an indomitable spirit. She, boy, if there's anybody who defines the hard work of the struggle and the fight to get XCEL and the PUC to move us off of burning fossils as fuels, coal and gas in particularly, this woman is exemplary, and she's been at the fight for years. She's the founder of Clean Energy Action. And
I want to talk about this energy revolution on both sides of the meter. You've seen what happens with Steve's meter, which is it goes nowhere. Awesome. If you're not quite as good as John or Steve, then you can just kind of do what we've done. Lots of insulation. Oops. I hope this isn't on its own timer. Lots of insulation. We have a lot of shade, so we're part of the solar garden, drive a leaf, so much fun, and have recently just figured out that we can actually do solar thermal. It's up, it's running despite all the trees. I'm so excited because I'm not a big fan of, and the folks at Capital Solar figured it out for us. Saves you lots of money if you can do all these things, and mostly just makes you smile like crazy. I'll just tell the brief story about driving a Leaf, and I don't even like cars. People know I ride my bike everywhere, and I walk, and I take the bus, but I do drive sometimes. And when I am driving, and when I'm at the light, and there's the big muscle car next to me, I just very gently tap the pedal, and I leave them totally in the dust. And we're going to love electric cars so much. So do as much of this as you can. It's absolutely fabulous, and it is doing what we need to do on our side of the meter. Let's pretend like we did it 1,000-fold. Take the number of people in this room and divide it by 1,000, and you all got 20 people to do what John and Steve have done. Unfortunately, you would have a hill of beans. Now, a hill of beans usually means you don't have much, but actually you have something because you have 1,000 people that have done this. If these were coffee beans, you could be rich, or you could grind it so we could drink more coffee. A hill of beans is not nothing. But I'm here because I'm serious about solving the climate crisis. I've been doing it for a decade, and I insist on a couple things. One, that we solve it on a scale that matches the scale of the problem. And two, that our accounting is the only accounting that matters, which is the accounting in the atmosphere. It doesn't matter that my utility bill has gone from $60 to $100 a month to $10. That's fabulous. But unless it's changing the accounting in the atmosphere, the carbon dioxide and the methane, carbon dioxide in the oceans, then we haven't really done what we need to do to address the climate crisis. So we've got to do that. We could do it 10,000. We could get 10,000 of these guys and ladies who've also done it. And we still would really have a hill of beans. Now, a hill of beans isn't nothing. It would be a very good thing to have done, but it's still a hill of beans. This is our old thinking that somehow, if we can just do all of our stuff on our side of the meter, that somehow negawatts and nega gallons and nega everything, but mostly negawatts, because as you'll see, those are the important greenhouse gas. That's the source of the greenhouse gas. The electricity that comes through here, largest source of greenhouse gas emissions by a long mile in most parts of the country. The Pacific Northwest is a little different. But for the most part, it's about your negawatts. What's going on with your kilowatt hours? That somehow if we reduce this, those negawatts will lead to nega emissions. That's a happy thought. You can pay lots of consultants who will do this. I'm a longtime supporter of the Rocky Mountain Institute, almost from day one. Amory and Hunter have been my visual and spiritual and every other kind of guide for a long time. But unfortunately, they use this assumption. And unfortunately, it is absolutely not true. Negawatts on our side of the meter do not lead to negawatts, nega emissions on the utility side of the meter. And this is what matters, right? Because this is what the atmosphere is experiencing. So we've got to be brutally honest about this. And when Governor Ritter, who I was a big fan of, said, well, the way we're going to solve climate change is do clean coal. We'll take all that carbon dioxide and shove it under the ground and spend a lot of money and we'll do clean coal and yada, yada, yada. And a team of us said, Governor Ritter, we are huge fans of you. And this will never work at a price or scale that matters. And you might notice we don't have a clean coal plant in Colorado. We were this far away from it. But it meant that we had to have the courage to think something different than our leaders. We had to use the accounting of the atmosphere. And we had to know that that's the only accounting that matters. And having said that, I want to acknowledge a couple of our elected officials. Start with Elise Jones, who's on our Boulder County Commission. And now I'm going to do a Castellino. I'm going to cry because they just extended the moratorium for 3 years. And Elise was the only one in the beginning who said, we can do it differently in Boulder County. And over the last 3 years, Elise, raise your hand. Former director of what used to be, I forgot, Colorado Environmental Coalition, then Conservation Colorado. And she's sitting next to her sister, Zan Jones, who's on Boulder City Council. It would take me hours to describe all the good things Zan's done for us, but just be grateful if you haven't met Zan. She's an amazing council person. So we have to be serious about this change here. This change here. And in order to do that, we have to be honest about what goes on. We can do this as many-fold as you want, but what stands between us and the nega emissions that the atmosphere demands that we do and that the planet demands that we do is a utility. And a utility has different things going on. How many of you are XCEL customers? Very good. How many of you are not XCEL customers? Okay, if you're not and you want to talk about your community, see me afterwards. We have, other than Loveland and Longmont and Estes Park, the PRPA communities other than Fort Collins, we have really good movements going all over the state, and I can get you hooked up with whoever you need to. It's not that XCEL folks are bad. I work with them every week of my life. They just are about making dollars. They make dollars by pouring money into their fossil fuel infrastructure as we speak. XCEL is in the process of spending $1.1 billion in 2014 and 2015. The vast majority of that is on fossil fuel infrastructure, coal and natural gas. And a huge amount of it is on old coal plants. They make their profits from doing that. That's happening as we speak at the Utilities Commission. So let's not just have the happy face and assume that megawatts on our side of the meter somehow are going to magically lead to negawatts here. We've got to be honest about that, and we've got to act at a scale and in a fashion that actually solves this problem. Ask me how I really feel about this issue. This is Boulder's greenhouse gas emissions, and the reason I'm so serious about this is because Boulder spent 10 years from 2000 to 2010 doing all the fabulous things that you've heard about so far. And we have more solar in Boulder than many states have. Not most anymore, but many states have. 15 megawatts last time I checked. That beats a whole big list of states. We have thousands of homes that have not quite gone the direction of Steve and John, but we've done our piece kind of like we have, my husband and I have. And you can see the very large impact we've had on our greenhouse gas emissions. Not. We're nowhere even close to meeting Kyoto, which is what we said we're going to do 10 years ago. So part of my message is we've got to be serious about this, and we've got to not keep repeating the same mistake that somehow thinks that a revolution on our side of the meter leads to significant reductions in greenhouse gases and addresses the largest crisis that's ever faced the only planet that supports life. So finally, we took the city's diagram. This wasn't here, because everybody was worried about this and megawatts and blah, 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 and they could never get there, and we've done fabulous efficiency and demand response programs, and we are nowhere near close. And finally, we said to the city, knock, knock, what's holding this line up is our electricity. We need to decarbonize this, as Mario pointed out. And the question is, can we do it? And the answer is absolutely, and we can do it and save money. But we can't do it until every single one of you and all of the people you bring along demand that this happen, that we get our electricity and we get it from lower carbon resources. This is XCEL's fuel mix going out from 2015 to 2030. You can see that while we have more renewable energy, when I travel around the country, people look at this, oh, look at that, you've got 20% renewables. And I go, yes, and it was a battle every freaking step of the way. But 100% minus 20% is still 80%. So what we have is a green veneer over a fossil fuel dominated system. And that's what's running through these circuits here. 55% coal, 20% natural gas, and about 20% renewables on average. And if you want to solve the climate crisis, you've got to quit being satisfied with that. And you've got to communicate, and you've got to communicate with your local elected officials. You've got to organize. We're going to have two fabulous organizers later. I want to call out Vince Calvano. Raise your hand, Vince. Young attorney who's defending the solar industry down at the Utilities Commission. You've got to support these young people as they have the courage to go after this, because this is what matters. And you don't see this green getting big and the coal going away. Instead, the truth is XCEL's commitment to coal lasts to 2069. And so if we're going to get there, what we really need is this revolution on the other side of the meter. And the fabulously good news is that this is something that every single one of you can have a huge impact on. How many of you are good friends with President Obama? Okay, Bob thinks he is. Okay, good. Have fun, Bob. I hope you get into his office often, and I hope he listens to you. The rest of us can write our emails. We can write about EPA. We can do all that sort of thing. How many of you are really, really good friends with Governor Hickenlooper? Bob's a good friend with Governor Hickenlooper. Good luck, Bob. Get him to change his mind on frickin' fracking if you're such a good damn friend. How many of you have the opportunity to get to know your city council people? Oh, yeah. Every single one of your hands should go up because their names are all over the web. You can call them, and they may not answer you the first time because they don't know you. You call them again, and you call them again 3 days later, and you call them again. And local governments are the key to making this progress because they're the key to creating this revolution on the other side of the meter. Because local governments have a relationship with your utility, whether it's XCEL or whoever it is. And when your city council speaks to the utility, they're going to listen. And part of the reason they're going to listen is because Boulder City Council, Zan Jones and the team she works with, have spoken, and they've made it clear we're absolutely serious. Minneapolis was able to leapfrog off of that and get a much better agreement with XCEL. And so you have a very important role in this. This is what we believe can happen. We believe we can move well beyond this green veneer over the fossil fuel-dominated system. We have to begin, we model natural gas, but we know that storage and grid innovation, demand response, will allow us, once we break free, to do all of this for a price that's lower than the price that we're paying now. And this was all done in 2011. XCEL's rates have gone up 4 times since then. They're about to go up again. We think XCEL's asked for another $137 million to come out of our pockets to pay for all of those emissions that are coming out of the fuel plants. And you can help because you can demand that your community begin to demand this. And when you do that, when you take responsibility for the carbon intensity of electricity running through the circuits of your community, then you become extremely powerful. You don't have to know President Obama or Governor Hickenlooper or anybody else. You just have to figure out who your city council person is and begin the process. Help educate them about XCEL's coal plants. Help them understand and help yourself understand that when we, for example, take the Valmont coal plant, it's a pretty small plant, 185 megawatt, it's the equivalent of taking 150,000 homes off the grid. Taking Stevens and multiplying him by 150,000. Nobody, that's not a hill of beans. That's a big deal. And this is a small coal plant. It's also the equivalent of taking 200,000 cars off the road, over 200,000 cars. There's nothing else you can do. I don't care how many employers you talk to. I don't care how many electric vehicles you get. And what matters is the accounting in the atmosphere. And when we do this, when we take this down, this was our 08 or 09 bike ride march organized by a couple amazing young organizers. What does that say? Thank you. I so can't see it. And we're going to have Valmont down the end of 2017. I wish it could be down now. It's burning some of the most expensive coal. And XCEL said for years, oh, we couldn't take Valmont offline. It's our most efficient power plant. And when we analyzed our coal supplies, we said, oh, by the way, you're burning some of the most expensive coal in the country. And we started to unwrap all of that. So that's a big hill of beans when you get those sorts of things done. These are our challenges. We can sit and do nothing. We can change light bulbs and add insulation and do all the other things and wait till XCEL retires their next coal plant in 2030. Or you can look up the phone numbers of your city council members and begin to educate yourself in 12 minutes. I can't teach you everything, but I can do the best I can to help you understand how to educate yourselves, work with others in your community, educate your community leaders, get your leaders to communicate to the utility. Because of what we're doing in Boulder, all these folks have to do is give the rumblings of dissent, to quote Martin Volker, who's not here today. But if these folks give the rumblings of dissent, It echoes Boulder, and we are in the process of taking $130 million away of business away from XCEL because we want cleaner, decarbonized electricity. And if your leaders in Golden or Lakewood or Aurora or wherever you are, if they just go to the utility and say, knock, knock, we want cleaner electricity, XCEL knows precisely what you're saying. You don't have to talk about municipalization or anything like that. You're just saying, we are no longer satisfied with that fuel mix that you intend. And by the way, we really think spending $1.1 billion on old coal plants and fossil fuel resources would really not be the way to address the crisis that faces us. Public hearing this Thursday, November 20th at 5 to 7 at the Utilities Commission. I'm going to 1 and 2 more and I'll be done. And just to begin the education, that's XCEL's modeling. What it tells us is that as XCEL models it, and they do all sorts of bad stuff like discount future fuel costs and make future fuel costs look like they're going to be nothing, and a whole bunch of other bad stuff. This is XCEL's modeling. This isn't Leslie or Clean Energy Action or anything else. This is XCEL saying when we add wind and solar, here will be our cost savings. And when your city council people start to see this, then all their arguments about, oh, well, we can't close all the coal plants now, or the wind doesn't always blow and sun doesn't always shine. No, you can't close them all tomorrow. That's absolutely right. We don't have to wait till 2030. But unless you act, we will be waiting until 2030, because believe me, what's going on now down at the Utilities Commission makes me want to lose my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and everything else I haven't eaten. Lots of folks to help you. We don't have time, but know that you are not alone. Amazing folks. You're going to hear from some of these later today. Smile, it's the beginning of the solar era. But we need to go fast. And we need to work at a scale, and that scale is the community scale, and each and every one of you is critical to getting that done. And then we won't just have a hill of beans, which is a good thing. We need something much bigger than a hill of beans. And you're key to it. So thank you so much. And if you want the numbers on what it means to shut coal plants, you know, you can either take the ones in the PowerPoint and double them according to size, or these, we've calculated them for all the coal plants in Colorado. So I'll leave some of them here.